Okay, mashallah. Margaret, you guys see us coming in? Okay.
Yes, I can see you.
Okay, because I tell you, these programs get lagged. Okay, let me put this on. And let me put my camera on too, so I can do the introduction to this. Oh, there I am. Okay. Ready? Okay. Okay. Ina alhamdulillah, wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. I'd like to welcome everybody to our weekly show with Brother Yusuf Zucovsky. This program is so important, guys. Like I was telling you yesterday, all of the lectures and classes here at Sunnah Followers, they connect together. They go hand in hand. What's happening in the world, we have to understand the lordship of Allah. Everything that's happening, good and evil, it comes from Allah. As Allah says, whatever bad befalls us is because of what we brought on ourselves. And if you look at what's happening around the world, look at the politics, the news, and how it's impacting us as a nation. You wouldn't sit around wondering why is Allah sending this war? Why is Allah sending fire? Why are the Muslim lands, and the Muslims here in America that live in certain parts of America faced with calamities, knowing what's going on in the world and our reaction to it and how we are contributing to it. That will help us to come to terms with accepting that Allah is in control, that perhaps we have brought this on ourselves. Because remember, whenever we deviate away from Islam and its truthfulness, there will be repercussions. And this media has caused many of us to deviate away from Islam and its truthfulness. So it's very important that you guys pay attention to this class, because this class, this series, this lecture with Brother Yusuf will open up your minds and let you see that Allah is indeed just, and Allah is indeed the all-knowing. And hopefully, since Ramadan's around the corner, you can take what's happening in the world and say, I'm going to make that change. I'm going to change the condition of myself. And I'm going to make dua, that the rest of us do the same. And perhaps then, life will get better for us all. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Brother Yusuf. And again, he's going to start us off, guys, with the news. What happened this week? What happened this week in the news and how it impacts us as an Ummah? And then any questions you guys have about anything that's going on in the world that's impacting us as a nation, you can write them down and then ask him afterwards. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Brother Yusuf, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the introduction, as always. That was a kind of a perfect segue to what we're going to be starting off with in terms of news, is about changing the condition within ourselves. Because this week I saw something on Twitter, I went and looked it up, and it was true, that Starbucks is opening another 500 branches. Ago, I had done a video when I was in the masjid at that time with Sheikh Ibrahim Jamali, and I had talked about basically the one message that they don't want us to talk about when it comes to these things is obviously we can't get rifles or muskets like the old days and go defend our brothers and sisters. It's just not possible. It's not feasible for us to do so. That we had to use our dollars and our economic power and muscle, to really bankrupt this system and anyone who's a part of it. And you saw a lot of this catching on, and I heard stories of people throughout the Gulf where people were walking around, oh, we're boycotting all American products. And that's, of course, wrong, too, because not every American company is contributing to this. But I named in that lecture several companies that were known contributors, and one of them was Starbucks. And now we're seeing 500 more locations are opening up across the Gulf. So what is that telling me? Starbucks is not going to go out there and build 500 locations unless they have a reason to. They have teams of guys that study the market, that study the trends. They have focus groups. They have all this stuff that these billion-dollar companies, all these resources that they can bring together when they make these expansion determinations. And they felt that 500 was adequate. So I always see Muslims around invoking Allah, praying to Allah, praying for this dua or that dua to relieve the brothers and sisters' struggles there, to change the world. But yet, at the same time, these people are so weak and so pathetic that they can't even live without overpriced, poisonous, in most cases, products made by these corporations that are funding our own destruction. It's like you see the same thing all the time here in America. When we find out all the time all these different fast food companies are funding all these different LGBTQ and liberal agendas and anti-First Amendment stuff, anti-guns, and then you have all the people, and about a week later, they're right back to consuming the stuff again. This is Muslim 2.0. This is 100%. It's so bad what's going on over there, but don't mess with my Coca-Cola. Don't mess with my Starbucks. Don't mess with my McDonald's. I don't care if those companies are contributing to Israel. I don't care, basically, if any of these things. I'm not going to live without my vice. And then they have the nerve to come out and invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to change the condition. And as Sister Layla said, we can't expect Allah to come down here like a UPS man or a DHL man and deliver the package. We have to do our part. We have to clean our own house, and then we trust in Allah. And once we change the condition of ourselves and collectively, you are going to find basically tremendous change, will come, but we're just not ready. We're just not at that point. And as the graphic up there says, 500 more stores, are coming. They already had them in Mecca. They had the fish goddess removed from Mecca to make it halal, but it was already there. And then we see, in response to a lot of the boycott talks over this guy's actually been at it for quite some time. This is going again to the 2.0 discussion that we had last week specifically, where we were talking about the agents and the enablers and all the different types of signs of them. Well, you can't find someone who really fits those signs more than who we're going to talk about now. You have this gentleman that goes by the name of Faris al-Hamadi. Now, most people probably in the West won't necessarily know who he is unless you really keep up, with Islamic apologetics and Islamic dawah efforts and stuff around the world. He's a prominent scholar from the United Arab Emirates. Needless to say, that's almost all you have to say right there. No one who comes from any of these countries at this point anymore can have really an ounce of credibility left. Because if you're ever even given a platform over there, you have to be controlled. No ifs, ands, or buts. You will be silenced in 2 seconds, put in jail or worse, if you dare to speak out. But he was, again, doing his shtick that he's been doing for the past year and a half, where he was making fun, calling it the religion of boycotts, going through different things. He's been very pro-Israel and about increasing the relations between the Gulf states and Israel, the normalization, all the big Abrahamic stuff that's going on there that we've talked about over the past, few months here. So one of the examples that he was using, which was really, really disgusting, and sometimes people say something that's just so bad, you're just like, am I really hearing what I'm hearing? But he had talked about before about, you shouldn't boycott these brands in the Gulf because you're actually hurting Muslims who own these businesses. Now, this is just bottom of the barrel in terms of pathetic, in my opinion. So let's phrase this in a way that just brings how absurd this statement is. So if you have a Muslim over there who is marketing Coca-Cola, go do the research on what Coca-Cola does to the body, how much it raises your chance of diabetes, how much it destroys your kidneys, how much basically it causes all kinds of behavioral problems. It's 48 grams of sugar in a 12-ounce can. It's loaded with additives and artificial ingredients. It by no means is good for your body. But because a Muslim is selling it, we should buy it, right? That's basically what he's saying. If there's a Muslim who's willing to put his pockets over the health and well-being of his nation, we shouldn't boycott him. We should support him. If a Muslim owns a bar, we should support it then by that logic. If a Muslim owns a nightclub where it's encouraging zina, we should support it. We shouldn't boycott him. If a Muslim owns, God forbid, a bar that has nudity, should we also support that because it's a Muslim who owns it? I mean, this type of logic was just, again, like I said, absolutely pathetic. It's scraping the bottom of the barrel here, trying to make it seem like this is some kind of a moral crusade, to use a Christian term there, that we should all just, yeah, a Muslim owns Coke. We have to buy it. We have to go to Starbucks. A Muslim owns it. I mean, this is just, again, no words to say on that. And there was another one by this guy, and this was one of my signs I pointed to last week. They will always go to obey the ruler without fail. They will pull this one out and they will throw it out there. And no one more than this guy really kind of embodies this. Just follow the ruler, no matter what. And he was using this, of course, for the Palestine situation, as he's done from the very beginning, stating that they know more than we do. And it's their best judgment. We should always know that when the ruler makes the decision, he's the one that can determine whether it's beneficial or not. So again, I'd like to ask Mr. Ferris. So a female performer singing in Saudi Arabia about her sexual organs being goddesses, is that something that's beneficial? The ruler apparently said so. He sanctioned it. He allowed them. They cut the checks to bring such performers in. So that ruler has made that determination then that that behavior is beneficial to us. So by his logic, just blindly again follow the ruler. Telltale sign, 100%. When you hear that opinion, you know this person is controlled because this is not Islamic. And what those leaders over there are doing, as we talked about last week and the previous weeks, is not Islamic. The amount of filth that the Saudi Entertainment Authority has brought into their country in the last year alone, right around the times of very, memorable, or not memorable, but relevant is the word I'm looking for, Islamic festivities or celebrations, such as Hajj, such as the Eids. They have these celebrations, going on over there. And they're doing the most horrible things, So again, boycotts angers them. Disobeying the rulers or not blindly following the rulers, it angers them. That's why they talk about it so much. They're telling you, please don't do this. They're trying to use every type of third grade logic and psychology to try to get you not to boycott because they fear you boycotting, because there's billions of us. We control tens of billions of dollars in our pockets, and how we spend it is one thing we still have left of freedom in this world. They don't want us doing this. So they're going to go out of their way and send all their henchmen. You saw all these other supposed Muslim social media influencers coming out and defending this man, just like they defended Andrew Tate, just like they defended Sneeko. They're defending this guy, as well. They don't want this. They know this is their worst nightmare, is when we stop spending our money on companies who are doing us harm, actively doing us harm, whether it's in Palestine, whether it's morally, spiritually, and so on. So I wanted to open up a bit talking about that. And yeah, you can see again here. I mean, it just gets worse and worse. I mean, we're going to talk some more about what Saudi Arabia is doing in the close of the news section here as well. So also, I mean, there's many reasons. My next point, to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the gift of life every day. But Allah knows us better than we know ourselves. And he knows one thing that I love is, being vindicated. I really, truly love when I'm telling someone something, I'm putting myself live like this. And I put a lot out there into the videos that hope people can get something from them. And then the week later, Allah will give something in the news that makes me feel vindicated. And I really want to thank Allah for that. So we were talking last week also about the female infiltration that we see in social media and how they are using sexuality to steer away people. They're hearkening themselves on morality and all these other things to guide their listeners astray. So we had something this week that broke about Saturday to Sunday. It's not related to Muslim, but it's related to what we were talking about last week with the social media influencers who are doing it to our Ummah. We have this lady that goes by the name of Ashley St. Clair. She was a conservative woman who basically was similar to what I was talking about the women doing with Islam last week. She talked about traditional marriage and families. She understood basically there's a gap in Western society now. People are begging for something that resembles normalcy. Normalcy's been taken away, from this society. So she, like all these other female grifters, was marketing herself to do that. Well, she had a love child, with Elon Musk. Elon Musk, obviously, and I think he's got 14 of them now. I may be wrong, don't quote me on that, but it's some double-digit number of illegitimate children. Now, this man, he's also campaigning on traditional family, traditional values, and yet he's continuing to have zina out of wedlock as well. Now, this woman is coming out, and everything she pretty much said about her life and what she's marketing is one big lie. She uses video editing, filters, makeup to alter her appearance as much as possible. As you can see there in the picture, she doesn't look like this at all. When you take away the filters, you take away the makeup, all the different things that she's doing to make herself look as beautiful as possible. She would do several tweets condemning women for sleeping with men to reach the top. She had done this about Kamala Harris and others. And now we find that she's doing exactly the same thing. Adultery, children out of wedlock, sleeping with a man who is as wretched, ugly, and just horrible as this man here. There's no endearing qualities, about this individual, things that he's a part of, but it didn't matter, in the end of the day. And there's also a lot of signs pointing to her connection with Israeli intelligence. She is a Jew. She does have those connections we've talked about in here before at length. So part of the network, if you will. So I often, those of you who are familiar with my work, I focus a lot on liberals and the liberal message because it's something that's so prominent now in our society. But these so-called conservatives are just as wretched in private as the liberals are openly. They just go out and they sell something completely different to grift, to make money off their fan base. There are reports, anytime they have these conservative conventions, we see every single time, without fail, the gay app Grindr will actually shut down in these cities because there's too much traffic on the app. They had a conservative convention back when Donald Trump was running. I think it was up there, it's in the Midwest, North Midwest. I can't remember if it's Detroit or Chicago, one of those two major cities up there. And the app shut down again. Again, you're seeing the same type of behavior that they're condemning the liberals for. They fundraise off, we're going to stand for the Bible. We're going to stand for traditional values. And then you look exactly how they're, being in their private, personal lives. Same thing I talked about last week, highlighting how our leadership and all these people are phony in the Islamic hemisphere. You're seeing the exact same thing in this political sphere as well. We also had this famous conservative blogger, Candace Owens. She ripped into Islam, saying that Islam is not compatible with the West. Now, this woman popped up out of nowhere. That's, again, one of my signs last week that we pointed to. You never heard of them. And then all of a sudden, they're everywhere. They've got millions of followers, their platform everywhere. This woman's husband, along with her, are also friends and defenders of Andrew Tate. We're tying it all in, as we will continue to do. So how are you sitting here, this woman, saying Islam is evil, it's a horrible religion, it's violent, it's not compatible with the West, but your husband is friends with a man who is supposedly a Muslim? Just simply does not make any sense, unless, of course, you know that this is all a game. This is all a grift. It was all a way to make money. All along, none of these people believe what they say. Andrew Tate's no more of a Muslim than George W. Bush, was. And now we're seeing, even with Andrew Tate, it seems like his Islamic mission is finally closed. How many youths before he closed this mission did he lead down the wrong path? Because he never even mentions anymore that he is a Muslim man or he's proud to be Muslim. You used to hear this countless times from him. Almost every talk that he gave, he would say, well, I'm a Muslim. I'm a practicing Muslim. Now you never see things about him anymore. But what you do see is the Trump administration now putting pressure on the government in Romania to release this man for his crimes. So he will shill Trump constantly now, Elon Musk. He's now being promoted as a champion of conservative beliefs. They just move these people around. You know, he's the Muslim guy now. Everyone should follow him. All of a sudden, he's not Muslim anymore. Now he's this big conservative Donald Trump guy. He was going to run for political office. I had told everybody a month ago in my talk on him that the party had never been registered. It was all a grift. Sure enough, he's admitted that now. He ripped his followers off on crypto. And we still have Muslim youth following this man. It just whatever is enough. So, you know, again, he's now traditional Christian conservative beliefs, and you'll have Christians and conservatives heralding him as a champion of free speech, much like the Muslim community a year ago heralded him as Islamic masculinity. He is the embodiment, again, just like he was to Islam, he's the embodiment of everything opposite of Christianity, of traditional Christianity, what the books say, not what people obviously are doing. But he's really truly a representative of modern society. In every way, he is a creation of this modern world. He was created, presented, agent all the way, 100%, to lead people astray. He recently had another one of his memorable quotes where he said to a woman on Twitter, he said, "If you don't like being on his side, bleep, guess you will just have to find another famous global billionaire, and he'll find another girl who loves strong men and money. Let's see who struggles more." So what he's saying here, if you don't accept being my side, bleep, you know, then I'm just going to go find another woman like that. You as a woman, good luck finding another millionaire like me. Now, what he's saying here, as much as wretched as he is actually the truth. There are so many women now in the West. They are so, what's the word I'm looking for here, obsessed with the worship of the dunya, that they will willingly accept being degraded by a man like this just to be at the side of someone who has money and power. It's like, how far has this society fell? And it's coming to us. We are going to see Muslim women, if nothing changes, inshallah it will, we are going to see Muslim women, if we're not already, degrading themselves, lowering themselves for these same type of men in our community as well. That they are so in love with the dunya, their jewelry, the lifestyle, the fancy restaurants, and all the things that this man can offer you, that you're willing to sit there and let him degrade you like this. And he's completely right when he says that. He could go out and snap his fingers, and there would be hundreds of these women running to be next to him, and he'd be calling them names the entire time they're there, and they would stay and they would like it. And this, again, is just so unfortunate that this is where we are at right now as a community, a global community. Also, to close the chapter on him, we have another trend I've been seeing this week in social media, particularly Arab women and men are attacking Westerners who are posting curiosity tweets about Islam. I see a lot of these things in my feed. I like to keep up with the pulse. So you find what's going on is a Westerner will say, hey, wait, no one ever told me this. And they start putting some quotes from the Quran, some quotes from the Sunnah, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, this is not what I was getting from the media. This is not what I was getting from my local pastor. This Islam stuff doesn't seem that bad. I'm kind of interested in it. And immediately their feed, I don't know who these people are, where they come from. I looked a few of them up, but they just seem to pounce out of nowhere to come on and attack these people. And they're predominantly, you'll find a lot of, what is this one here? Yeah. A lot of these Arab women who are college educated are the ones that are doing these type of attacks the most. They are the fiercest. They make their careers out of this. You'll see several Arab men doing this as well, and they'll immediately be platformed by Christian apologists. If you're an Arab now and you're an atheist or you left Islam, you're almost guaranteed to be platformed and give 1,000, 2,000 immediately. Then you'll be in the hundreds of thousands of range within a month. There are several of these individuals. They work alongside, I'm not going to name their names, work alongside Christian apologists, but the females are the ones that are coming at these people the most viciously. And you find out when you look into it what's behind the attacks and motivation. Usually for the women, it's the empowerment. They see the world in the West where a woman can make a living manipulating and controlling men. They are too shallow to see that the women in this society is dying. You know, men basically are dying, women are dying, birth rates are down. This society is collapsing. It is falling apart. You know, but for these women, they see a world where they can remove their clothing. They can use their assets to rise themselves up. And the way that they attack Islam is with such disdain and anger. And you just can feel it, you know, coming through in the comments that they're making. It's really unfortunate. A lot of these new reverts are getting a kind of crash course as they're coming in immediately with some of the things that are going on. But I looked up a lot of the women that were doing this, and all of them were college educated. One of them had a PhD, was working in the university, and they're just so proud, again, to show in all the pictures, they're wearing less clothes and they're wearing clothes. Again, it's just marketing this. And this is always their desires to control men, to use their sexuality are at the heart of all of it. Then we had one final major piece of news here, which was kind of shocking to say the least. The Saudi government had done this recently. I was not familiar with it. I found out about it this week, that they've opened the region of Hejra, also known as Medinan Salah. For those of you obviously familiar with Islamic history, familiar with the Quran, this is the people of Salah and the she-camel. These are people who were punished basically for their disobedience. We are asked to walk the areas, to weep, to understand the consequences of a society, of what happens when we go against the words and wishes of our Creator. These places were to serve as monuments to the arrogance of man, to man's resistance to the divine, to the perfect. And basically back in 1970, the Saudi Religious Council had issued a fatwa prohibiting visitation, you know, to this area. And there it is right there, right now on the screen. The Saudi Royal Council in 1970, different world back then, had banned it. But now you're seeing again what they are doing. They are opening it up to tourists, luxury hotels, and it's worse. Inside these luxury hotels, they even have like open showers where they have the women there are bathing out in public, basically in bikinis. They're walking around. It's like you're in the West. There is no difference at all. And again, the amount of disrespect to use a place where, again, Allah punished people for decadence, for disobedience. This is the highest form of disrespect. This is what's going on day to day now in that country. They are mocking Allah. They are mocking the commands of his messenger. They don't care. They feel they have more money now. They can do whatever they want. I mean, why choose this place? It's very symbolic. They are making a statement here. Yes, we're mocking God as well. We are mocking Allah, and we don't care. And we are going to continue to do it. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's judgment will come on them sooner rather than later. So that's some facts that I came across this week that I wanted to open up with. Now, as I mentioned last week, we're going to do a little bit new format. We're going to have some discussions and questions. So we're going to spend the next half of our program talking about things that you guys are interested in and you want to talk about. If I feel I'm knowledgeable in the topic, I will explain as much as I can, and we'll have a two-way, discussion. Other people obviously welcome to come in, chime in with comments. So, Sister Layla, we can go ahead and begin with that.
I have a question or comment. So, when you were talking about immigration, so why are they so adamant of like turning
came on to this when I was in my late teens back in 1998. I started this long, long journey. And it was always very puzzling to me because I was seeing the destruction already going on then. And a lot of people were wondering why. And at the time, I wasn't very savvy on the Jewish problem or the Jewish question in society. And once I started getting heavily into that, it all started making sense. You can go back and look at several statements. I wish I had the quotes for you for who said them, the dates on me. I do not at the moment. Was one famous quote from a rabbi. He said basically, we are witnessing the last generation of white people that are going to be born in this land. We are going to destroy them, and we are going to use mass immigration to do it. The Jews have a very deep blood feud with Europeans, European Americans, obviously, white, Caucasian, whatever you want to call them. This goes back to their expulsions I talked about a few weeks ago, all throughout Europe. They feel they were given a raw hand. And also the fact that they believe that we are the most difficult for them to rule over. We like to rebel a lot. We like to fight back. We unionize and all these different things. And the Hart-Celler Act began this in the United States back in 1965. If you look at who proposed that legislation, it's these same people. At the same time that was going on, we were seeing it going on in Europe. They were changing the immigration policies there. So if you get two things, they want to destroy what they see as an ancient old enemy, but at the same time, they want full control of the societies. And they feel that through multi-racial, multi-ethnic tension, they can rule much easier because they are unified. But all the different groups are not. So if you had already, and this is why you see every time there's an anti-white movie targeting African Americans, trying to get African Americans to hate white people, if you see gangster rap and other things giving a bad image of African Americans, you always see these same exact people behind it. They want to make Group A hate Group B, Group B hate Group A. Then you throw in all these other different immigrants who don't know the language, they're not of the culture. They get the same message. I talked about that a couple weeks ago, how they use these immigrant groups to whip up hate against the host population. They're just trying to create all these multi-layer ethnic conflicts, which is very easy for them to rule. This is why you see it going on in the West. Once they get done with the West, they're now turning to the East. They're now doing the same thing to Japan as well, because they want to go in there and completely take control of the whole entire world, pretty much. And they are going to use multi-ethnic tensions to accomplish that. Because no nation, could thrive by welcoming, even if these are the smartest people in the world, the best people in the world. If you brought in 50, 60 million people into a country in such a short period of time, you would tax the resources, you would tax the housing, you would put the people into a lower state of living, which is exactly what has happened. No logical person would do this. It has to be what I was saying. You can look and find someone who views themselves as not of the nation is internally destroying the nation. And that's exactly what we are seeing all over the world right now. And once they get done in the West, they are turning, as I said, to the East. Japan, they're working on them now. Korea will be next. They just told the Koreans recently that you're going to have to open up to unlimited immigration because your birth rates are too low. And they're going to start bringing in people from uncompatible cultures and bringing them into Korea. And you're going to see the whole same thing repeat itself all over again. So hope I asked in a brief way, answered your question, but it's definitely intentional sabotage. There's no logical reason to do this. No country gets better by adding this many people so quickly. And then it's not even screening the people anymore. We used to bring in people with PhDs and master's degrees, engineers, doctors. Now we're bringing in losers. All men, who have nothing to offer their own societies. And you can see how when they try to send these people back, the host nations are like, no, we don't want them back. They don't want these people. They're glad they're in the United States. They're glad they're in Ireland. They're glad they're in Europe. They don't want them back. They do everything they can to make sure they don't get sent back. And we're always told, it's such a blessing to have unlimited immigration and bring such strength. If it brought such strength, why are these governments refusing to take their own people back? They don't see it that way. Mexico's been dumping their gang members, MS-13, coming from El Salvador, coming from Mexico for decades. In fact, just this week, Trump was he labeled something good that he did. He labeled these Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations because they are. They are domestic terrorist organizations. And the Mexican president is defending the cartels and trying to change their constitution as we speak to protect the cartels. They want the open pipeline, people inside of our country as well as theirs.
Okay, we have a question here from one of the brothers. He says, where does China fit into all of this scheme in regards to Islam, their views on Islam? Are the Chinese people anti-Islamic? He said, because in my opinion, they are the country, he stopped, to be feared. He said, so where do they play in the schism of things?
That's a very good question. I had experience. First thing that struck me about the Chinese was they were highly collectivized. They view things as they're part of a machinery. I remember I was teaching safety classes about how to take care of injured people when I was living in the Gulf. And one Chinese student said, well, sir, it's better for the company if the person dies than if they're injured. And I was taken back by that. I had never heard a student act, and the rest of them agreed with him. And it was a way that they viewed life, that they were cogs in a wheel, collectivized, part of machinery. It's a communist society. Communist societies by nature are heavily atheistic. We can see what's happened to Uyghurs. The Chinese have classified Islam as a mental disorder. From what I can recall, an article that I had read from a reputable source, that they view Islam as a mental disorder. They humiliated the Uyghur. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not very good at Mandarin, but it's a Muslim segment of the population over there. They forced them to drink alcohol. They forced them to eat during Ramadan. They forced their women to commit zina. I mean, just horrible things that they were doing to this Muslim population there. They are not our friends by any means. And you're also seeing the Gulf states are welcoming them in, as well for investment. Saudi Arabia, I said when I was over, that's where I saw the Chinese students, was in Saudi Arabia. They were coming there because they were part of Sinopec, which is the Chinese oil company. You're seeing the Chinese are wreaking havoc in Africa right now. And the way they're treating the African people there makes what the colonizers did seem like a back massage. I mean, it's just horrendous. They have no love for the environment. We can see in the stories about how they treat their water, how they treat their wildlife. I mean, it's not the people. I mean, it's the way they're raised in the government. You can change the soul of any man, but when you're programming someone from the time they're born into a certain lifestyle, ideology, doctrine, they're going to pick up on that. They're going to imitate that. The Chinese people I've met, some with very beautiful hearts, very beautiful people. So it's not the people. It's not a racial issue, but it's the government. And right now, part of the plan is to boost that part of the world while they destroy the West. These people, they work in economic cycles. They love building a nation, an empire, tearing it down, selling off its assets, then going over here and building up another one. They got off on America for the last 100 years. Now they're going to tear America and Europe down. They're funneling it all into India, China, the Gulf, trying to build those areas up. They will have their time. They'll tear it all down and just keep on cycling probably to Africa, to South America, back to the West again. So not our allies by any means. These people, as I described, what they've done to the Uyghurs, I mean, no nation has treated Muslims in this way anywhere. I mean, people in the West may make fun of Islam, they may draw cartoons, but you don't have government-sanctioned facilities where they're forcing Muslims to drink alcohol and eat bacon and commit zina and all these things. I hope I answered the brother's question.
Yeah, he also added, so they are pro-Israel and anti-Palestine.
Well, neutral, you can say. I've seen some encouraging statements about Israel coming from China. From Chinese officials have talked about Israel controlling the United States and controlling the West, but they have no love for us, obviously. So as I highlighted, so they're not an ally, but they're not someone who's necessarily openly supporting Israel, at least to my knowledge. I may be wrong, but what I have seen, not to that extent, like the West.
I have another question. I want to say about 15 years ago, I used to watch, like, they say conspiracy theories, but they were always talking about being chipped. I don't hear anything about being chipped anymore. You know how they were planning on putting chips inside of people, and like if you cut up or get out of line, they would take that money out of your chip. Or I don't know if they're setting that up or if that's still in the works. Have you ever heard of anything like this?
Well, it's actually happening to us right now. It's called a mobile phone. When I drive my car in the morning, it tells me where I'm at. It knows I'm going to work. The other day, like when I got it, says you got 12 minutes with traffic to get to your office. They know where I am 24/7. Now with what we're seeing with money and banking, pretty much, I mean, they're going to integrate all this into an ID. They use COVID as an excuse. This COVID thing is all a scam anyway, but they use this to set up to see what the people would be willing to accept, because eventually they're going to want to have a one-stop shop. You're going to have all your biometric data, all your stuff on one single ID badge. China already has, going back to them, they already have what they call a social credit score. So your social credit is how good of a citizen you are. Well, who determines that? Obviously, it would be the government. And I don't want this government or any government, for that matter, determining me. I'd probably be an F when it comes to my social credit score, because the things I say online, the things I say in my private life, but all integrating all this. So chipping, that was something they were teaching us when we were growing up. So it'd be the hand, the forehead, all these type of science fiction stuff. But in the reality, when these people get something they want you to do, they get you to beg them for it or to love doing it. They're the masters of psychology. They will trick you into jail as freedom. The bars are there for decoration. You're not really engaged. They know how to play you like this. So by having these mobile phones and integrating everything with them, that was step one. Now you've got the tracking device in your pocket. They know where we're at all times. Next, you integrate your banking. Already there's certain cases where people have gotten in a line. All they got to do is go on the keyboard. There goes your bank. All your money gone. But you have to pay your bills. You can't just walk around and carry cash anymore. They're going to increasingly remove the cash from the society. So you see already what they did with the coins. There's most places now, they don't even want you to pay with exact change anymore. They say they don't have change. What happened to it? Obviously, this is by design. They want to integrate you more into a total digital system, which is so easy to control. And the vaccine thing that's coming up with this mRNA technology and nanotech, this is another field there. Using fake pandemics that they whipped up, it's a figment of people's imagination, getting them to take products. You don't know what's in these things. This vaccine that was released recently for COVID, it's a military operation. God knows what's in those. I didn't put it in my body. I didn't let anybody I knew put it in their body. But we don't know what they've done with that. And the integration of that and 5G, a lot of this stuff is just now starting to get some time where people are discussing this. But we've been integrated for a long time, and they're going to continue to do it to where everything is, like I said, on a digital ID. You can put a barcode on your phone. They can cut you off. Your social credit's too low. You can't get a home loan. You can't go here. You can't leave the city. Even at Emirates, during the COVID scam, they had you had to download an app, and you weren't allowed to have, I can't remember, it was 3 to 4 people. I had a friend over there was telling me, and I looked it up and what he was saying was true. It was like 3 or 4 people in your house, or it would send the signal, and then they would threaten to call the police on you. So they were controlling at that point even how many people were in your home and using this phony pandemic as an excuse. So it's already here. You're right. I mean, it's coming. Getting it worse and worse.
Oh, I had a question, but I think Sister Lady wanted to ask you a second question. I'll go after her.
Oh, I was just gonna do a follow-up. So the pandemic was like the test run of how this operation is gonna go down.
Absolutely. They were trying to see what they could get away with. And you notice how all of a sudden it just stopped. It was like an experiment. They got their test data, they got their observations, and I think the people failed this test. I think they weren't going to put that in me. There was a video I saw during the pandemic. It was very inspirational. It was an American guy from the South, and He pulls out his rifle and he says, "You try to come to my door and put that into me, we're gonna have a discussion. And needless to say, I'll shoot you and not think twice about it, because my medical freedom belongs to me. My body belongs to me." And so many people in Europe and here were just bent over, and anything jump how high, and all for something that was never even proven to exist. I mean, people say there was this COVID thing, but really all it was the flu. They just changed the name, and they had clever marketing. I can do a whole thing on that, going from the tests, how the tests were manipulated, all the way up until what we saw with the final product of the vaccine.
Yes, that would be very interesting.
It was mind sorcery, totally mind trickery that they pulled during COVID.
Yes, I had a question because, I've been, we see now in the current news or whatnot, since the new administration came up, we've had a lot of cases of plane crashes. And, we're looking at the news and we always see that when certain things are going on, there's always distractions being placed around us. From your point of view, can you put us into the light of the current things that are going on and what's going on around the world with why there would be so many of these plane crashes and why that would be like a cover story as, like a smoke screen or whatnot, as to more important things that are taking place, I say, within the past month?
There's an old saying, the world is theater, and especially politics is all theater. The plane crashes, I can't intelligently comment on if they were real or set up or whatnot, but I can go through past incidents that we have seen, such as Donald Trump's phony assassination attempt. When Donald Trump was supposedly assassinated, you saw basically, and I've treated wounds on men. I'm a first aid teacher along with safety manager for 17 years. I've treated blood, I've treated wounds, I've treated men getting cut with metal strips. I've treated just about everything you can imagine in the workplace. And when I saw his ear, I laughed. It was totally phony. There was no scarring. They literally put a blood packet on him. When he stood up and did his famous fight, that whole thing was obviously no Secret Service protocol allows the president, after there's been gun, you don't know where the bullets came from. You haven't controlled the shooter or shooters, but yet you're allowing this man to stand up and pose in front of the American flag for that great photo op that they had. Never, that goes against all protocols. And the media tried to blame that on the incompetency of the female security head, which again was a joke. We see that's theater. We saw all Donald Trump's trials were theater. I told people I'll bet my life he will never serve 1 minute in prison. Even the mug shots that they took of him were not protocol. Those mug shots were completely staged and fake. So we see all the time when there's some news story going on under the surface, some corruption is exposed, some aspect of what the Zionists are doing is exposed. They don't want people to look over there, so they have to create a flash bomb, over here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was the same thing with these plane crashes. When Biden was in, we had all those things with the food plants were catching on fire. You were having these mysterious fires that were burning these facilities down. And again, I worked in a facility that had a high fire rate. We had so many fire controls in that facility that me and our engineers and others had implemented to ensure that if there was a fire, it would not get very far. There were so many ways of putting it out, but yet we saw these food processing plants burning down, raising the price of our food. We saw recently why the eggs are through the roof now, because they use those phony PCR tests on the chickens to say that they had bird flu. Biden administration, 150 million chickens were murdered when there was nothing even wrong with them, driving our egg prices up. All these things we see are manipulated, all to keep us off of the main goals and to keep us so stressed and worried about our own lives financially, emotionally. It's theater. And I'm sure these plane crashes are the same thing, because now all of a sudden we've had like 4 or 5 of these things, going on in the last. I don't know the essences of each case to comment on those. I just gave some examples of the recent ones that I am familiar with.
Okay, here's another question. One of the brothers here is asking, do you think that these Dawa people are one of the tools used by the Zionists? The reason I'm asking this is because when you watch them, you realize it's nothing but just a waste of time. But the things that they say really do affect your belief. And even Twitter, I see Twitter as disgusting, as a disgusting platform, because all I see are Muslims calling each other kafir. And
Absolutely.
And that's what this other brothers type the same thing too. They say, this other brother said, because I'm gonna add his too to this because it's the same thing. He said, when I listen to these Dawa brothers, it makes me almost hate Islam because they confuse me. They have me thinking and believing things that have taken me away from Allah.
And their suspicions are correct. I wish those brothers could watch, if they have some time, my previous 2 videos before this one, where we went over a lot of this. We talked about Muslim 2.0. We talked about manipulation that goes on. We talked about what an agent is versus an enabler and so on. And one of the things, as he was talking about making people hate Islam, I talked about this when I was showing how anti-white a lot of these Dawa guys are. They say a lot of racist, hateful things about white people. Why? Because their job is to make the Muslims have a boogeyman. Then their other job is to make sure that these white Americans, white Europeans, they never even entertain Islam. Because when they think of Islam, well, that's what that guy does. That's what he does. I don't want any part of that. Look at these people. Look at their behaviors and manners. Now, as they said, they're turning on each other. And you see the people who are righteous out there get attacked and ganged up by the Dawa Mafia. They insult them. They're calling each other kafirs. You don't believe enough. They're bringing in stuff from Islam that's even their limited knowledge of it, but it's advanced stuff. The average Muslim needs to focus on the Sharia, the Salah, the fasting, all the beautiful things that we do, the middle ground, the easy path, the path that Allah has given to us. All the advanced, complicated stuff was for the high-level learned scholars. And they're taking this stuff, bastardizing it, fighting over it, confusing the average Muslim who has no need to know all these very complex.
They're attacking the scholars too. He just, like they say, they're attacking the scholars too. They're slandering Abu Wahab. They're talking about Ibn Taymiyyah. They're slandering the scholars too, who are not even here to defend themselves. These people just
absolutely slandering the dead.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, again, all this. You're an average Muslim. You want to find out what you can do to help your community be the best you can be today. What someone's debate was back in 1395 is irrelevant unless you're a learned, prepared, well-planned, studied, student of knowledge. I mean, the average person is obviously not that. They're not on that level. And these conversations, again, are divisive to divide us. Most of them are agents. I said most of these guys, you can see how quickly they rose. They popped up out of nowhere. You can see how deviant their message is. You can look at their conduct and their behavior. They never have solutions. That was one of my themes last week. You'll never see solutions from these people. They're never saying, let's do this together to make our community great again. No, they're just like, buy my courses, watch my content, hate that guy over there, hate him, and so on. You vote for this Democratic candidate, as we see in the United States, pushing this Democratic candidate here, these leftist causes here. So 100% controlled by the Zionists. They've got to make Islam hated, both by the Westerners, as well as lead us astray, get us fighting amongst ourselves, and no solutions ever given, just hollow talk. So you listening to them, you feel you're wasting your time. You're going there to learn, and you're getting nothing, but bigotry, hate, and classlessness, to be honest. Like Sister Layla said, going after scholars, insulting scholars. Even if the scholars made a mistake, they spent their whole lives. Everybody makes mistakes. They're not here to defend themselves or their positions, anymore.
Okay, here's another question. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth to the kitchen too. Another question. Do you recommend that we just stay away from these men on social media who are talking about Islam, but they're arguing and debating? Do you think it's best for us to stay away from them and not take anything from them?
I don't think it's good to ignore them. I think we need to know what they're up to. I think we need to know what they're talking about, because this stuff indirectly affects us, because you'll meet people in public or in the masjid who've been influenced by them. Like me knowing about Andrew Tate a lot helped me when I saw the young people coming in the masjid with Tateisms. So I don't think we should completely, not know what they're up to say the least. We need to know what they're up to. But taking them seriously, absolutely not. And like I highlighted the list last week of all the ways that all the things that they will introduce that will show you they're not in our best interest. One of them I talked about was blindly telling you to follow the leaders, particularly the ones from the Gulf. They're going to introduce racial divisions, leftist talking points. Some of them push liberal agenda like abortion. Some of them push LGBTQ. Some of them push calling everybody a kafir. So it's just like different signs that you can know. Big audience is always one. As I said last week, if you're big because they allowed you to be big. They don't let independent voices become big. That just simply does not happen. If this guy's got 1 million so subscribers, because they want you to know who he is. They want you to follow. These people, you'll study them, you'll see every break known to man they got. They were elevated rather quickly, they were platformed, and so on. That's a telltale sign that this person is an agent, and they got all the YouTube on their side, the Rumble on their side. A lot of those from the UK. Obviously, I'm not going to name their names. You know who I'm talking about. They obviously fit that bill. You look at how messed up the Islam is in the UK. I mean, that was just the other day they were talking, I think it was Bradford. How Bradford has got such a high Muslim population now, but yet it's a hellhole. It's like there's no Islam there. There's Muslims there, but there's no Islam there. The manners are in the gutter. It's dirty, garbage everywhere, drugs. The men have a tradition where they drive around their cars and they yell profane things at the women. I mean, it's like every single thing that's the opposite of Islam is present in Bradford. So you judge a tree by its fruits. The Dawah community in the UK, this is what you're producing. You're the leaders of these people, and this is what we see. So I rest my case there. But definitely we shouldn't ignore them. We should know what they're up to. Always be a student of the news. Always be a student of current events. Always see the trends and patterns. It helps you to understand them, to navigate through them, and to warn people about them. Sister Layla must be in the kitchen.
Yes, I'm still here. I'm sorry. I'm back and forth trying to cook too. Multitasking. Yes. Okay. Oh, he's asking me, do I agree? Yes, I do. I mean, I think that if you're a person who's weak in Iman, like many of you are, especially the new Shahadas, because you guys just converted to Islam, your heart can't recognize truth from falsehood yet. I think it's best that you all stay away from these people and just stick to a teacher, a person that's going to teach you this religion. Aqidah. Remember, when the Prophet ﷺ sent Mu'ad, he said, teach the people what it means to believe in Allah. And then after they understand that, then teach them the prayer. Then teach them about fasting. These brothers are not teaching you Islam. They're not teachers. They're just people who talk. They're talk show hosts. They have a podcast that they're making money off of. They're not educating. They're not a teacher like I am. They don't ask you questions. They don't interact with you. They're just trying to give you what the soul is attracted to. The soul is attracted to everything that's dirty and bad. And that's why they got the money that they got off of getting off their YouTube channel. You brothers and sisters who are weak in your knowledge, your understanding and practice of this deen, stay away from them. But like he said, the people of knowledge need to keep their eye on them, because we need to know what they're doing so we can come back and undo it. We have to.
Yeah, is that brother who asked the question, is he a new Muslim?
Yeah, that's a new Shahada. And then one of them,
he should stay away.
Yeah,
from
one
that.
of them was born Muslim. The
I was
other,
referring to people, like me, Sister Layla. I've been a Muslim now for 17 years almost. And yeah, with people who have been experienced,
Yeah.
who know what they're looking for. Absolutely.
Now, what the other brothers from Pakistan? Now you can answer him. The other one, the first one is from Pakistan. He was born Muslim, but listening to these people has, like he said, it affects his faith. Has made him weaker in faith. What would you suggest for a person like him?
Well, if you said it made you weaker in the faith, I'd like to have them clarify what these guys say, because usually these guys should make you stronger in faith, because of the fact that they are so off. You know, basically, that when you follow the truth, what the truth looks like. You know, when you meet somebody who's a real Muslim, how they behave, how they act, what type of manners they have, the way they deal with people. You can look at these guys and say, this is the reason I want to be a Muslim. This guy's not one. This guy's obviously an actor. You know, he's a performer. He's playing a Muslim on TV. Like Sister Leia's a talk show host. You know, as a professional actor. Yeah, they're not. All this stuff is like wrestling. Yeah. You know, it's politics.
Yeah, they're not scholars either. These brothers are not scholars. They're not teachers. They're just men who say they're Muslim and they have a podcast to try, and they're designed to play with your emotions to get the views. They're not teaching you. They don't even communicate to you. They sit there and talk about other people. They don't interact with you. They don't quiz you. They're not teaching you anything that's going to take you to paradise. And remember, the prophet said, stay away from that which is not of benefit. He said, if it's not of benefit, then stay away from it. You know, so I still would, even a person like you, stay away from him. He's weakened your faith, and that's a sign that this is something that you don't need to hear. Leave these people to the real scholars of Islam to deal with. That's their job to deal with them, not yours. Yours should be to stay away. Yeah, anything that takes you away from Allah, leave it. Isn't that what the prophet said? Yes. But
the main goal of these guys is to stall. They're stalling time. The plans that are going on in the world, we've been talking about them today, all week. The more they can keep us docile and fixated, like we talked about with the news, with the theater, keep you distracted. You know, keep you wasting your time on trivial issues. Again, instead of proposing solutions, they never have answers. It's only problems. They're never telling you what we should do, how we can use our dollars or our whatever currency that we're using to make real change, how we can be real agents for change financially in this system, how much purchasing power we have collectively. None of these things are ever raised by them. None. Give them money, take part in their grift, give them their attention, their views, their currency.
To make a statement too, with what we see that's happening in the world today, we don't have control, but we have to understand and realize that Allah is totally in control, and we as Muslims must rely solely upon Allah, and watch the clowns of the world, because this picture has taken place before, many years ago, and it's been taking place. It's going to continue to take place, and all we can do is watch ourselves and make sure we are making du'as to Allah to protect us and our families and stay with this religion. Because what we're seeing, we can't stop it. And we can see that they can't stop it. They don't know how. So it's like the devil has taken control of souls that we have no control of. But we don't want the devil to take control of our souls to help us to believe in some of the crap that we're seeing. So we have to be very positive and stay faithful to Allah in this deen. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Any other comments or questions? MashaAllah. The brothers here are typing, very informative program. I am so glad, Sister Layla, that I attended. Yes, I'm going to put shorts out. And again, guys, you know, Brother Yusuf's his series here is very important. We have to know, like he said, we can't live in a bubble. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said one of the people that Allah hates is a narrow-minded person. You know, we can't live in a shell. We have to know what's going on in the world around us. Knowing what's going on in the world around us, you know, it should let us know where we're failing as a Muslim. and where we're succeeding as Muslims, and then we can make the proper changes within ourselves. Because remember, Allah says He'll never change the condition of a people until they change the condition within themselves. So please continue to join every Friday, this talk, this series, because that way you will know what's going on. And like the sister here typed, she said she's seen the picture of that Black woman, but I did not know that she was about that. You mean, the Candace Owen?
Oh, Candace Owens, yes.
Yeah, she's real popular on Rumble. She has her own talk show. She's a talk show. She has Muslims on her talk show all the time. These Dawah brothers, they're always on her talk shows. And that's how you can see that they all work together. Because what Muslim man would be sitting up on a talk show with someone like her? But she's very hot and popular on Rumble. She's real
popular. She's one of those people, going back to last week, I talked about, they banned her. And that's their classic trick. They use it all the time. They ban these people from a platform. Then they tell you that they banned them. They put that they banned them everywhere. So it makes the person look like a renegade. They don't want you to see this person. So what does that do? It funnels more viewers into their controlled content. Andrew Tate got big from this. He was famously playing, I'm the most banned man in the world. Because every time he got banned, it was all over the news that he got banned.
Right.
So his views kept going up.
Yeah. So, this is all, this is part of the conspiracy. Exactly. Yeah. So make sure you guys join this series every week. We need to be aware of what's happening. Okay, guys. Yes, next Friday too, the same time, inshallah, next Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, I will put the shorts out. And by the way, guys, when I make the shorts from today's lecture, please share them on your social media platform. The more Muslims that listen to this stuff and see this stuff, we need to become aware of what's happening. We need to become aware of how we as a nation are being manipulated, like the prophet said we would be. We're being manipulated by the unbelievers, and we're imitating them, following them, doing what they did. Subhanallah. All right,
next week is Ramadan Eve, you could say. So I'll talk a little bit about Ramadan stuff in the beginning, about the beauties of fasting, the health benefits, briefly. How I call Ramadan the Great Reset. So we'll be talking about that. Then we'll do questions again like we did today. I like this. I think this works going further. People find something during the week they're interested in, they want to bring it here, we'll talk about it. So we could do a little bit of stuff on the fasting. In the beginning, how this is the ultimate reset for us in our lives. Every year, it's a way to really reset our health, reset our spirituality. If we're not praying all the time, maybe missing 2 or 3, unfortunately, this is a time to get all 5 in and get that rhythm. Take 17 days psychologically to build a habit. Ramadan gives us 30. So we can really instill some powerful habits. We'll talk about that, and then we'll move on again, do most of the show with discussion and questions.
MashaAllah. Okay, guys, I want to thank everybody for joining and participating. Please make sure you're here next week. And also, yes, my Q&A will be at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time tonight. Bring your questions about Islamic stuff, not world stuff. Leave him for that. Just bring your Islamic stuff at 9:30, inshallah. All right. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. That was really good, bro.